after a very long year, a little bit more, we finally got our first look at Strange New Worlds Season 3. And it may be true that I'm not the biggest fan of the live action movies and show that popped up in the last 15 years in this franchise. Strange New Worlds, even if it breaks canon, sorry Taylor, is the big exception. I really can't wait for this to drop 6 months after it drops in the United States. This is the review of Champions, and I'm your host, Grandmaster. With me is a powerful panel made up of the finest champions Sakar has to offer. Let me introduce them to you. First up, voice only, we have Mr. Lord Deathman. How are you?
Hey, everyone.
We have on screen. See what I did there? Merv, how are you?
I'm fantastic.
And last but certainly not least, we have the original, Mr. Taylor First. How are you?
I am where no one has gone before.
Okay, don't get into details, please. I'm scared. 16 of the Star Trek project, where we will be reviewing Star Trek, all of it in order of release, kinda. And today we're on to Star Trek: The Next Generation, Season 6. But before we dive into that, I want to ask you all to help us out. Like and share this video and subscribe to our channel. And join our forum at Sakar.freeform. So that just click on the link in the description so you can set up an account and you can join our conversation on the board. We would love it if you do that. As mentioned before, we will be discussing the 25 episodes of Season 6 of Star Trek The Next Generation today. 25 because we will keep Descent Part 1 for next month when we can also discuss Descent Part 2. So, how do we do this? We start off with our section, Grandmaster's Picks. And that's the section where I get to pick a few episodes that the champions need to discuss. And this month I picked, my first one is Chain of Command, Part 1 and 2. Yes, I cheated. I took 2. Tapestry and The Chase. And I'm going to give the floor to Mr. Taylor first to give me his thoughts on these 3 episodes.
Oh boy. Chain of Command. A Tale of Two Cities. The parts with Jean-Luc Picard getting captured by the Cardassians and being interrogated. David Warner plays the Cardassian interrogator. I believe, in no particular order, this is his 3rd role in Star Trek. Phenomenal scenes, phenomenal acting by both of them. Absolutely terrific. Meanwhile, back at the Enterprise, Captain Jellicoe comes in and takes command, and the crew of the Enterprise act like a bunch of whiny little babies the entire 2 episodes. Oh my god. Hey, we've got a very important frickin' mission to do that could result in a war with the Cardassian fleet. So we need to do this, this, and this. Oh, we'll have to transfer power from the geology lab if we do that, sir. Then transfer power from the geology lab. The rocks will be there after the war, you little idiot. We'll have to work round the clock. Yeah, people work round the clock when we're going to war. Oh my god. And then, practically by himself, Captain Jellicoe defeats the Cardassian fleet, prevents a war, saves Captain Picard, and doesn't even get a thank you from anybody. Holy cow. It was crazy.
Yeah, I've always been Team Edward Jellicoe. I absolutely love how he puts Riker in his place. Instead of, chasing every skirt that's running around on the Enterprise, you may actually do your job for once. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not the biggest Riker fan, as you all know.
I tell you, it was terrible. Even Jordy, who's like one of my favorite character, he was acting like a whiny little you know what too the whole time. Terrible, terrible. Um, at least I thought they were going to say, you know what, we should have been more, you know, uh, well, more welcoming, more open to your suggestions, sir. Turned out for the best. You did a great job. Thank you for saving Captain Picard and preventing a war that could have cost billions of lives and all that. But nope, it was like, all right, Picard's back. Bye.
Yeah. Well, the war threat was over, so they could go back to Shakespeare and violin sessions in Ten Forward.
Exactly. We don't have to worry about this, billions and billions of lives who depend on us for their freaking survival stuff anymore.
Yeah,
We can go back to chest and rocks in the geology lab.
yeah,
All right, enough with that one. Tapestry did a kind of a wonderful life thing with Picard in Tapestry. Q shows him what would have happened if he had made a different decision. And it was a fun episode. We get to see a little important thing that happened early on in Picard's life that if it had gone a little bit differently, it would have changed things very, very much. And Picard gets to come back to life. So, yeah, no, that was all overall a very good one. And then the other one you said was The Chase. Now, that's a
yes,
good episode. All right, that is a good episode. Picard, who's, we all know he's a very big archaeology buff, and his archaeology professor comes back and has, wants Picard to go with him on this mission to find these artifacts scattered across the galaxy. And it turns out that it was left by like 4 billion-year-old aliens or something, and it was a message to all of their descendants, who turns out to be all the different species in the area. So that was very interesting. Just a shout out to one guest star, the Cardassian leader, the Cardassian woman, was actually played by Linda Thorson, who, among other roles, was the third and final female partner of Jonathan Steed, Tara King, in the Avengers British spy show. So good for her being on Star Trek. But yeah, it's a fun episode.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lord Deathman, what I like about both the Chase and Chain of Command, that they actually use those two episodes in the writing to correct some or answer some questions that the fans had, like how can it be that everybody is a two-legged humanoid in the Star Trek universe? And the other thing, of course, where they did a correction is put Marina Sirtis in a Star Trek uniform for once. And she liked that, actually. She spoke out on that on several occasions in recent years. So that's why also I picked those two. Well, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think you've picked three classics, honestly, that are beloved amongst the fandom. We're still talking about Chain of Command to this day. The debate still rages on whether Picard's style of command or Jellicoe's was the more valid in this new utopian humanist future. If you've ever had to function in any type of a military hierarchy, Jellicoe's your guy. That's how things get done. I think being on the flagship and kind of like, yeah, we're going to go chart some gaseous anomalies or we're going to go look at some rocks today. Yeah, that might be stuff for the utopian future. But I think we owe a lot to Ronnie Cox on those two episodes because I don't think any other actor could have sold Jellicoe as well as he did. Check him out in RoboCop, Deliverance, a whole bunch of other classics throughout the decades. Um, yeah, not to put that man in his grave prematurely, but he surely will be missed when he's gone. He even had an incredible stint on Dexter as a foul-mouthed serial killer. But putting all that aside, there's really a lot to like about Chain of Command. I think just structurally, it just takes all of the crew members out of their comfort zone. It asks questions about how does Starfleet actually function as a military organization, which I think is something that kind of gets skirted on unless you're really looking at the Nicholas Meyer films from the movies and such from the old cast. I think that had a sense of more formality in terms of military operations. This gets us a little closer to that reality and says, oh, you know what? When there is a war going on, that they do actually have to function in such a way where things get done in a timely manner and people might be inconvenienced while it is happening. So, Chain of Command really is a favorite of mine. I was yeah, when I was growing up and I was younger, you watch the show and you're kind of like, oh, Riker's the hero. Jellicoe, I don't know that he should have treated him. Everybody else deserved the treatment they got from Jellicoe, but when I was younger, I was on Riker's side. But now that I'm a little older, more mature, I'm like, yeah, that guy was gold bricking, and Jellicoe had every right to get up in his space and say, could you please put that trumpet down and kind of help us win this war here, buddy? So yeah. Two of my favorites, and it's the memes that have come out of it, the discussions. Jellicoe has sort of been reappraised as a character in the 21st century, and I hope Ronnie Cox at least gets to come back and do him again in voice. Yes, but moving on to Tapestry. Yeah, that is a great episode in terms of showing us this alternate future of what Picard's life could have been had he not made certain choices. It's extremely well written, extremely well executed. I love the way that it's just so creative. Like they really push themselves a little bit in the sense of the formula, because Captain Picard, instead of casting a younger version of him, they get Patrick Stewart to play himself in the past, and no one really is bothered by the incongruity of this old middle-aged dude doing scenes, sharing scenes with these younger folks. It still seems to work in a way that's very compelling and engaging when you're watching the episode. I do have a slight problem with Tapestry in that the alternate version of Picard is seen as a mid-level kind of science and medical officer who hasn't made the most of his career, isn't the most ambitious Starfleet officer, and Picard kind of like, oh, get me away from that man. He's bereft of passion and he hasn't done this and that and the other thing. But I think that dude's life experience is just as valid as Captain Picard. So I don't know why they vilified this guy who just kind of chose the middle of the road. It, Other than to say that if he was not happy with that choice, then he was obliged to do something about it. But they really go out of their way to make mid-level Picard seem like a failure. And I was like, okay, dramatic purposes there. But otherwise, another classic episode. And then finally, let's get to the chase. I have some what I will call somewhat controversial ideas about this particular story. I do like the setup in the scenario. I like the idea that all of the great powers of the Alpha Quadrant are kind of vying to get these missing pieces of this DNA structure. They don't know if it's going to be a super weapon or something that will change the balance of power in the quadrant for whichever power is able to kind of suss out the mystery first. I like all the characters that they chose. I think they made some really cool choices in terms of like having the Cardassian lead be female, right? Usually you would have expected some uh, big time sort of heavy male actor to kind of be in charge of a military operation like that. The Klingon officer who's kind of leading the charge on their side, he's kind of more like this bumbling guy. You don't really see him being like the most strategic tool in the box. He's just like, look, I got to get this job done, guys, and I don't really understand about all this DNA and this and that, but I know that I need to have it, so I'm going to start annihilating planets to cover my tracks. So I love the setup of it, and I really do like the casting choices. I like the acting. But much like the characters in the story, when you actually get to the end of it, and it is this message from one of the progenitors, who make a weird reappearance in Discovery for hardcore fans who are following. But in any event, I was kind of just as disappointed as they were. I was like, okay, all of this subterfuge, all of this cat and mouse. all of this was really leading to uh, an excuse for why most of the species in Star Trek are humanoid and follow a two arms and two legs and one head body plan. So all of that was just like so that somebody could explain away something that really didn't need to be explained either in story or out of canon. So a minor gripe with that episode, but like I said, a lot to love in it, and I always enjoy it whenever it comes up in a rewatch. I'm always keenly paying attention to the details, but three classic episodes, really hard to flaw them in any way. You really chose three superstar picks out of the bunch for this season.
Yeah, but that's why I invented this section. So I get to pick the best ones, and you have to scrape the barrel, the bottom of the barrel. But luckily, that's richly filled. But before we get to your picks, Merv gets a sign off on these three episodes. But first, Merv, how are you enjoying Star Trek The Next Generation so far? Because last time we
Quite a
didn't
lot.
speak.
Yeah, quite a lot. I feel like as the seasons have gone on, I am more and more like, oh, I'll watch an episode of Star Trek while I'm eating dinner or whatever. You know what I mean? Like I'm definitely far more invested now. And then of course, like I'm like, oh, I'm already almost at the end. Like this is crazy. You know, it's 7 seasons worth of the Next Generation just flew by. Like, well, I'm not quite done with that yet, but it
Yeah,
seemed like a daunting task from the beginning, but now it's like, well, I'm almost at the movies, which I'm sure they'll fly by as well.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of a little bit bittersweet, I guess, at the moment. Of course, there's still one more season left, so maybe it's going to be the best one yet.
Mm,
But yeah,
yeah. Mm,
as for the 3 episodes you picked, uh, Chain of Command, I just want to echo all the love for Ronnie Cox. He's always great, but he's particularly great here. And except for one thing, how dare he expect a bunch of military personnel to follow orders and act professional and do what they're expected to do in this situation? It's like, if anything, he exposed how spoiled the entire crew of the Enterprise is, because I get that there are multiple ways to skin a cat, but the like just everyone throwing their hands up like this is ridiculous whenever he asks them to do anything, that isn't like, I was already going to do it this way. Well, you know what, do it this way because I'm the new leader and this is the way I want it done, and I want it done promptly, and I want you to wear pants today instead of your casual nighttime gear or whatever. Like it was hilarious to me to see the crew react to a new leader. It's always fun. I feel like we've gotten this a little bit even in the original series where somebody else steps in to take over and you see a wide array of reaction to that. But this one by far was just like, just do what the guy's asking. He's trying to prevent a war, and there's this Black Ops mission going on. He's trying to support that as well as like not go to war with the Kardashians, because they're crazy. But it was like frustratingly entertaining to watch everyone just kind of just pitch a fit over it.
Yeah, and
And
the best part is Data, who fully supports Jellicoe and everything, and says this can be done. I don't know
yeah,
why you say it. So,
yeah,
that's the best part.
yeah, it really is.
That's not true.
It's like, yeah, of course you can do it this way. It's like, why wouldn't you be able to do it this way? It's like, you can just put your pride aside and put your comfort aside for now. Like, there's some more important things going on. I also really liked all the scenes with Picard being tortured. I think those scenes are great. And I don't know if there's going to be any psychological fallout from that. There's just so many moments like this in Picard's history that it's one more thing. But the fact that he ended it with saying like, so sometimes I'm not sure if I saw 5 lights or 4 or whatever that was. Like, I could see that being like a scarring moment that lasts in the back of his brain. um the Tapestry was fun. It reminded me a lot of, there's a movie that came out in like the 2000s called The Butterfly Effect. Not nearly as uh, uh, painful to watch, put it that way. But like the fact that like these moments in your youth create the person that you are, and that like when you start messing with that, like it creates a totally different person. And I also want to echo, I don't remember who said it, but the fact that like, yeah, he was middle management, good at his job, he was still on the Enterprise. That's not like, he didn't become a bum like addicted to some drug in an alley somewhere. You know what I mean? This decision to like fix his life didn't ruin his life. He was still pretty good. He just wasn't the captain, because of reasons. But I really liked all of it. I especially liked, his relationship with his friend Zweller and Marta and that whole thing. And it was pretty fun. It was a nice look at like young Picard. The chase, I don't have a lot to say about the chase. I'm not sure why it didn't like stick out to me as an episode, other than the big revelation that like all the now we have an explanation as to why all the humanoid intelligent races in the galaxy are, similar enough, but there's small differences, but they can all still like communicate and converse with one another and have similar, I don't know, aspects of life for the most part. I do think it was pretty convenient that the great ancestor kind of mirrored the Federation's kind of viewpoint on everything, which is we should all just get along. And if they'd have came out and like supported like the Klingon mindset or something like that, like it would have been like, oh shit, maybe we screwed up. I
There
think
can
that
only
could have
be
been
one.
funnier, but it did fit the good guy dynamic of yeah, we should all be at peace with one another, and you're all different but the same at heart, kind of thing. So yeah, I really liked all these episodes quite a bit. Chain of Command probably is up there again for for just how terrible the the Enterprise crew was. They were just so bad.
Yeah. Well, there are children aboard the Enterprise. That has been established since the first episode. So, Lord Deathman, we're now getting into your picks, at least of all the champions. Let's do a carousel. You may name one, and then Merv gets to name one, and then Taylor, or vice versa, whatever. So, what's your first pick?
Before I get to my first pick, I want to say that there is a moment that I think that is hilarious in Chain of Command where Captain Picard has to justify to Captain Jellicoe why there's a Captain Picard Day. And he has like this little doll of himself, and he's like, "You, dude, for real?" That was
Yeah.
hilarious. But in any event, yes, I will. Well, again, this is such a great season. Really hard to pick episodes, but I think I'm going to start things with Relics because it has one of my favorite actors in it. James Doohan comes back to reprise his role as Scotty. This is one of those things where we have to put plausibility on hold. Uh, the captain, or the commander rather, has managed to store himself in the buffer of a transporter for 75 years so that he could get to our time and then suddenly be reunited with the TNG crew. Putting aside the scenario and the trappings, and it's just really a great performance from James Doohan, which you would think that at that point in his career he might have run out of steam, but he still puts his full attention into the character and makes you feel like you're back on the Enterprise, the original Enterprise. But the message of that episode about obsolescence, about making sure that people are useful as they're sort of climbing the ladders in their career, it really resonated with me. I thought he had great chemistry with LeVar Burton, the two engineers who are kind of plying their trade, but they're separated by decades worth of experience and technological change. And Scotty's just having a hard time sort of catching up with it. And again, he's feeling those doubts and insecurities about his purpose. And I think it was an excellent exploration of that. It was a wonderful use of the character, plus the scenario of a Dyson sphere. You never get to see this advanced civilization that was responsible for its construction, but a Dyson sphere is, of course, a massive feat of engineering that moves a species up the Kardashev scale, from I think it's a 1 to a 2 in terms of your ability to collect and utilize energy. They never say who created it, which I love the fact that it's a bit of a mystery, but it's a suspenseful episode. In true Star Trek fashion, Scotty's knowledge does get put to good use when we look at him having to sort of operate and repair the older craft in order to save the Enterprise. It's just one of my favorites. I think it's just a very touching story.
Yeah. And the fun fact about the Dyson sphere is actually that you cannot create one in real life because there's not enough matter in the solar system to create a Dyson sphere
Indeed.
around a star. There's just not enough matter. So that's, but as a theoretical object, it's a quite impressive thought. So, Merv, uh, do you have an episode you want to talk about? I know you do,
I
but
do.
I have to pretend
Yeah,
like I
I know.
don't for the show.
Actually, yeah, it makes sense. I do. I chose a fistful of datas. For the big reason is I feel like we often talk about like really deep character episodes or political ones that have political ramifications, and this one doesn't have any of that really. It's just really fun, which can get lost in the sauce. But this one again was like one of the funnest episodes that I had watching Star Trek, that had none of no real deep connective tissue to a whole lot of anything. But for starters, I love the Western theme. I think I mentioned it at least in the original series whenever they got around to a Western episode. Like, oh, right, we're finally doing this. So the fact that they go in the holodeck and it's a big, Western themed episode, I thought that was fun. I really just like the idea of Alexander teaching Worf how to play. You know what I mean? He's like, no, you're doing it all wrong. You're coming in way too hard, beating up the criminals in this imagination, episode. You got to take your time with it and get into character. And then they reset, and it's kind of like a video game almost, where you're going too hard. Just let yourself relax a little bit, Dad. I really like that aspect to it. And then of course things go haywire where Data's brain there's like a power interruption, and all of a sudden like the NPCs in the holodeck are playing for keeps, and potentially harm can be done, and they all start to one by one resemble Data, which I thought was pretty fun and pretty good for that actor, because he managed to fit into all these. You're like, oh yeah, that's that character, and he fits them pretty well. So I thought that was pretty fun. One of the bigger things, like one of my favorite aspects, I guess, is that Deanna gets full into character right out of the gate, which I thought was really fun for her as well. I feel like we don't see that as often, but the fact that she showed up and was all renegade cowboy, and the fact that she likes westerns as well, that was revealed. Again, just front to back, just had a ton of fun with this episode. And then, of course, Data got to kiss Worf at the end. I'm not really sure if that happened or not. I closed my eyes.
Yeah, well, and Deanna likes Worf too, but
Mhm.
um, Taylor.
Season 7, Deanna
Yeah,
and Worf. It gets
yeah,
ugly.
Oh yeah.
yeah. Well, ugly. Not for Worf. Um, Taylor, you also had an episode to discuss, no doubt.
Yeah. Before I do that, though, I've been meaning to dig this out. You guys probably can't actually see it on the screen, but that's a picture I took of Jean-Luc Picard when he came to visit a work site that I was on in Southern California. And this would have been summer of '93, so right around the time that this season that we're talking about was going on. Very nice guy, very friendly. Patrick Stewart.
Taylor, you just made me incredibly jealous. You met or
Absolutely.
saw the
Absolutely.
incredible Patrick Stewart in real life.
Patrick Stewart. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're already like a demigod to me, but my God.
Well, I don't have a picture of this one, but I have also seen William Shatner, so there you go.
Okay.
Anyway, there was only one episode I wanted to talk about, but it's a two-part episode, and that is Birthright. And my favorite part about this is they visit Deep Space Nine. It's a crossover episode in the early days of Deep Space Nine, and Dr. Bashir is there. He's the only member of the cast from Deep Space Nine that we actually see in this episode, and he gets to do some work with Geordi and Data, which is fun. But the main story of the two-part episode is Worf finding out that being told that his father might be alive on this. He's told as a prisoner of war camp planet where Klingons are being held by Romulans. And of course, when he gets there, he very slowly learns that no, these Klingons and Romulans have put all the war behind them, and they are living together here peacefully. But Worf, has some issues with that, and he starts talking to the younger generation there that doesn't know about, Klingon culture and things like that. And he kind of starts opening their eyes to other possibilities that are out there. And I found that to be a pretty interesting idea too. That they seem to be living well, but does it hurt? Does it hurt to give them some other options and let them know that there's other things out there that they might want to see for themselves or get involved with or embrace things from their cultural past? How to be a Klingon is basically what Worf shows some of the younger Klingon kids there. So there's a lot of facets to it. One is that Romulans and Klingons can actually live peacefully, but then there's the whole part of keeping your culture and honoring it and so on. But my favorite part of it is, of course, that they went to Deep Space Nine.
Yeah. How was that for you, Merv? All of a sudden, they go to a space station. You meet a doctor. You haven't seen that yet, so it must have been a little bit confusing for you.
A little bit jarring, but I was happy once Worf went on his own and got to a bunch of Klingons and all the people there.
Okay. Okay. Lord
It's a
Desmond, you
little
probably have
jarring.
a few more episodes to talk about, so
Well,
give me the next one.
I'll keep it to one more, but yeah, one of my favorite episodes of this season was called Face of the Enemy, and it is an episode in which we focus on Counselor Troy, and it's kind of rare to get Counselor Troy episodes, but usually when you do, they're very good. And I think if anyone was an underutilized resource in the cast, it probably was Marina Sirtis. But this one really raises the pressure and puts the character of Counselor Troy in a pressure cooker where she wakes up on a Romulan ship and has been surgically altered to impersonate a Romulan member of the Tal Shiar, which is their covert sort of CIA organization within the Romulan Empire. I like the episode because it just gave Marina a chance to kind of, stretch her legs in terms of acting range and ability. I think she pulls off a mix of anxiety. She does a good job of showing how well she's adapting to the situation really quickly and trying to get into this character while still having, traces of her own character. I think she just does a fantastic job in terms of her acting. It doesn't hurt that she is supported by a fantastic supporting cast with Scott McDonald as Sub Commander Navek, Carolyn Seymour as Commander Torith, and a whole bunch of other great. I won't go through the whole cast, but especially Carolyn Seymour playing this kind of aristocratic Romulan commander on the ship and challenging her in terms of, oh, well, didn't you study under Professor so and so at the military academy? Surely you remember his lesson on, and she's like, I don't want to talk about that. But yeah, a great episode with a great ending and a great scenario. So always sticks out to me as one of the better episodes of season 6.
Absolutely agree, and I especially agree on the underutilizing of Marina Sirtis. Uh, she was done. I wouldn't say dirty, but yeah,
She could have done more. I think they
yeah.
could have created more opportunities for her character. to
Yeah,
do different things.
yeah, absolutely. Taylor, you had a follow up.
Well, Marina Sirtis was sort of the female Captain Kirk because every alien male fell in love with her pretty quickly in a lot of episodes.
Yeah.
But this is a good episode. And speaking of I think this is the first episode where they actually mentioned the Talia Shar, and we learned quite a bit about Klingon, or excuse me, Romulan um, culture here in this one, and what's going on inside of Romulan military. And of course, the
Mhm.
Talia Shar is going to be front and center in a lot of Deep Space Nine storylines later on. But I think this is the first time they're actually mentioned.
Yeah, I think you're right on that. While we are speaking, do you have another episode you want to talk about?
I did not choose another one to go deep dive into, so
Okay.
I'm not going to
Merv,
go there.
do you have another one?
Yeah, I got one I wanted to mention. Frame of Mind, which is a Riker centric episode where he is preparing for an upcoming play and then acting in that play, which out of nowhere the Enterprise is full of plays, I guess, so that's fun. Um, and then also preparing for an upcoming undercover mission, and then throughout the episode, it's kind of revealed that like he's already done the undercover mission and he's been captured, and this is all just like psychological torture slash interrogation to try to get important information out of his brain. But the way it's done, the way that they kind of shatter reality multiple times, literally, because everything kind of breaks on the screen. Um, I thought it was executed really well. There are so many moments throughout the episode where you think you're back in reality, or that Riker has managed to get himself out of the situation, and it's just almost immediately met with his paranoia, which is proven correct because he isn't out of the situation for the heavy majority of the episode till the very end. But I thought it was very fun the way that they kind of one made you think that he was coming out or coming in or that something was going on, but here the entirety of the episode from the very start he's already been captured and is being tortured. Um, and then props to Jonathan Frakes for his acting in this. I thought this was one of the best he's ever acted. Just displaying the paranoia and the anxiety and the frustration and everything that came with this uh, situation that he found himself in. And I liked a lot of the little things, like his cut being like where the probe was, all those stuff. Like once it's revealed, it makes a lot more sense. On a rewatch, it makes even more sense. You notice a lot more of these little things that like these little nuggets of why these things are happening to him necessarily, which I thought was really fun. Um, yeah, I just really like this episode, and we tore down Riker in the chain of command, so I wanted to prop him up here, and as even though it was mission failure, probably.
I don't like the character of Riker. I will admit that, but I do like Jonathan Frakes as an actor and a director. So let me be very clear on that. It has nothing to do with the man himself. I just don't like the character of William Riker, and I also don't like the character of Thomas Riker. But that's another story. Taylor,
Yes, speaking of that, Frame of Mind is a great episode, but another great Riker episode is Second Chances, where we find out there are two Rikers in the galaxy, as if one wasn't enough. Now there are two.
yeah,
Some people theorize that there might be three. Just saying.
yeah. Let's hope not. Let's hope not. Lord Deathman, another one you want to talk about?
Yeah, I'll quickly just give an honorable mention to Ship in a Bottle, which I think is one of the most clever episodes of Star Trek you'll ever see, where everyone's favorite villainous sentient hologram comes back, Professor Moriarty, to menace the crew in a plot that is so diabolical that I actually don't even want to give it away in this review show. And I know I'm talking about spoilers for episodes of a show that are 30 years on, but it is just such a delightful turn of sleight of hand that Moriarty manages to pull off that I think it is, if you haven't seen it, it is worth going into it cold. So just want to say very clever, very enjoyable episode. You will not regret it. Even if you aren't a Star Trek fan, I would put that challenge out there that it's worth checking out Ship in a Bottle in season 6.
Absolutely, absolutely. I totally agree, and he's still outsmarted though. That will conclude this month's episode of the Star Trek Project. We hope you have enjoyed our discussion today. If you did, help us out, like and share this video, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you really want more of us, join our forum at cigar.freeform.net. We talk about every major pop culture franchise and much more on the board. So if you're interested in it, join us. Our next episode of the Star Trek Project will be about Star Trek The Next Generation Season 7, its final season. And we are looking forward to it. Check out our review series for Daredevil Born Again that's currently running on our channel. And soon we will be reviewing Andor Season 2. And of course, we will rush to the theaters to see and review Thunderbolts in a month. For now, I want to thank you all, also on behalf of our other champions, and wish you to live long and prosper. Bye.